Before we begin, lock your doors, turn down the lights, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that really happened. Welcome to Mordveil. I go out to the cliffs like I have every Wednesday for the past 10 years. The gravel crunches under my boots, the wind catching my hair with rough fingers. I keep pulling strands out of my mouth as I climb, my thighs aching. The path up to the top of the cliffs was steep when I was 16, and every year it's felt steeper. People ask me sometimes why I bother to keep coming out like this when my legs don't show any sign of getting better, but it's worth it for the vantage point. There's a few signs up at the top warning people to stay away from the very edge of the rocks. There's even a picnic table, although it's weathered and worn from lack of use. No one comes here anymore, not since the boat started to come. I don't need to go right to the edge of the cliffs to see it. I lean my cane against the table. I need it less when I'm not actively climbing, and wander out towards the edge. The water is gunmetal blue, dark and deep as sleep. The waves are a steady rhythmic roar. The ocean's voice is strong. Not one day that I've been coming to the cliffs has it faltered, even if the waves are quiet when I come. It's like a great cat curled up and resting between hunts. Don't for a moment think that I am any safer than I was before. The water whispers as it laps against the rocks. Don't for a moment think that I can't reach you where you are. As I walk to a safe vantage point, a horn echoes out across the water. I flinch. I can't help it. From this distance, the boat is a tiny thing, just a speck on the horizon. I reach out, pinching it between my fingers, pretending that I can pluck it from the sea like a tick. I know what I would see if it was closer. It looks like a remarkably normal ferryboat in most respects. There's no smoke coming from the smokestack, though. When it gets close, you can't see the crew. If it gets really close, you can see the wheels turning and the lines being pulled without anyone there to pull them. This far, I can't see any of that detail. I can only see the shape of the ship itself as it comes slowly, inexorably closer. They don't know where it comes from. Ironically, that's one of the main things that people do know about it. Whenever anyone new to town asks about it, that's the first thing that they're always told. It first appeared on a Friday evening 10 years ago. School had just ended for the year, and my friends and I were celebrating. If you asked our parents, we were all collected over at Mollett's house for a sleepover, eating what made by her mother, and cramming our mouths full of junk food and junkier movies before passing out in a comfortable haze of good food and the warm feeling of accomplishment at another year closed out. And we had done that. I could still taste the onion on the back of my tongue, mingling with the bright, prickly taste of the malic acid-coated candy that Ryan had brought by the bucketful. But we were 16 and 17, old enough to consider ourselves basically grown adults. And Mollett's parents were basically convinced by now that the lot of us were too lame to do anything exciting like drugs or have sex, which was true for the first one, and unfortunately not true for the latter one. It turns out boring people also have sex. Just, boring sex. So they didn't mind if she went with us. And the beach was close enough that I could walk there without too much pain or discomfort. Not no pain. It was never no pain, not even then. But I'd already learned even back then that if I wanted to participate in life at all, I was going to need to learn to hurt. There was only so long that you could watch movies, and when the credits rolled, someone made the suggestion. One thing led to another, and we were shoving on jackets and fishing phones out of the couch cushions and making our way out into the cold night on the path down towards the sea. I don't remember the walk there that well, nor our time on the beach before it came. It comes back to me in snatches and flashes. Mollett's bright laugh, like golden bubbles bursting in the night. My lungs aching from the cold, my hair tossed about by the wind. Sparrow winding it around their fingers. The fire Ryan built crackling, sparks drifting up like tiny stars in the night. The rough texture of Sparrow's denim jacket against my cheek, their body warm against mine. I wish I remembered it more. Even a scant decade later, the memories are hard to touch. They're all collapsed down into salt and sea foam. I was curled up against Sparrow's chest, listening to Mollett and Ryan tease each other as they roasted marshmallows that we'd nicked from the snack cabinet back at Mollett's house. I was half asleep, full of sugar and roasted meat and alcohol that we definitely weren't supposed to have. Sparrow was idly petting my hair as they watched the fire, occasionally chiming in with the other two. I felt warm, like I was swathed in a thick blanket. The firelight made a soft orange bubble against the night. I remember that still, how it felt like nothing could touch me. I don't remember the joke that Mollett made. I wish I did. I remember so little about it now. Mollett said something, and Ryan laughed. His voice was starting to level out, the cracks getting fewer and fewer as his voice smoothed down into its adult shape. He had a scraggly beard, one that he used to run oil through every morning in the hopes of getting it to grow faster. He was laughing, and then the sound of the foghorn cut through the night. I remember the strange violence of it, the way my bubble popped around me, the night stretching its hands into our little cocoon. I sat up straight, startled out of the half-dreaming haze I'd been drifting in. Mollett had dropped the cooking fork, the tip in the fire. Her marshmallow started to smoke and char black, but she didn't notice. She was staring down the beach towards the waves. "What the fuck?" Sparrow said out loud. Their head was turned away from the fire, looking out into the night. Mollett pointed. Ryan turned to look, and I turned, following their gazes. I couldn't identify what the shape they were looking at was. It was too dark, and at first all it looked like was a dark shape against the night, blocking out the light of the stars and the city. There were no lights on it to help resolve it into something that made sense. Then the horn sounded again, and I realized it was a boat. A boat aground at a beach with no dock, with no lights. I couldn't even see a red or a green light to tell me what side of the boat I was looking at. We should go. I had never heard Ryan sound that nervous before. His voice wasn't shaking. It was just quiet, steady and quiet, like a hand gripping the back of your neck. It was that had me struggling to my feet, Sparrow helping me to my feet with a strong hand. They bent down, picking up my cane to hand to me. Mollet started throwing sand on the fire, stamping out the embers. I should say that despite all being 16 and 17, we didn't try to explore the boat. We didn't go closer. We didn't shout out, calling out to the sailors we thought had to be there. We didn't try to explore. We didn't antagonize. We didn't linger. We didn't. I can look back 10 years later and regret that we didn't run immediately. I think at the time I thought that it might be an organized crime thing or something. A silly thought of a teenager who'd hardly seen a gun in real life. But what would you have thought? A boat aground at a beach with no lights, totally eerie and quiet, miles away from the docks. I thought as long as we didn't see people, we would have time to collect our stuff and move away. I thought we had time to get away. What would you have thought? We collected our stuff the fastest we'd ever had. We didn't speak. Sparrow threw our food in a bag. Ryan grabbed Mollet's coat, throwing it on her shoulders. We left the beer we shouldn't have, but we were 17 and scared. What would you have done? Silently, we picked up our things, pulled on our coats, and slipped away down the beach. We walked in tense silence, resisting the urge to look behind us. Sparrow helped support me without being asked, letting me lean against them, helping me find my footing. I was slower. The sand made me even more unsteady on my feet. I could feel Mollet's anxiety and frustration. She kept glancing back at me. My face felt hot. If you've never been the most disabled person in a group, you might not know the prickling shame of it. Even if the people you're around don't say anything, it clings around the edges anyway, sticking to you like burrs to a coat. I clung to Sparrow, focused on ignoring the pain and keeping my footing. I was looking down at the sand, trying to make sure I didn't step on a rock and turn my foot when I heard Ryan stop. I looked up and froze. For a moment, I thought we'd been turned around. It was impossible, but it was the explanation that best preserved reality as I knew it. Then my heart sank down to my stomach. I felt like the world tilted around me. It was coming home to find your house occupied by strangers. The boat was in front of us, dark shadow against the stars. I could feel Sparrow go tense against me. Mollet took a step back. Ryan stood frozen. Then, as one, we turned, dropped our stuff, and started running. I ran. My legs screamed immediately. I didn't run. As a matter of course, walking took enough effort. But the cold, freezing fear in my chest was enough to prompt a sprint. Sparrow's hand was tight on mine. They were on the track and field team and could easily outpace me, but they stayed behind, hand tight on mine like a vice as they tugged me forward. I don't think any of us had fomented anything approaching a plan. Sometimes the only thing you can think to do is run. If I'd known then what was about to happen, perhaps I would have. But then, that's always what you tell yourself, isn't it? We had turned and ran back down the beach, the way we had come from. I remember looking up and seeing that the boat was gone and feeling a weird flare of hope. I could see the bright sparks of the city lights outlined against the sky. There was a path somewhere among the ice plants and the sand that would lead back up to asphalt and streetlights. I had a thought somewhere in the back of my mind that surely that would mean safety. I didn't know what was happening, the way I would later. I just knew that something was terribly wrong, and the only thing to do was to be as far away from it as possible. Mollet and Ryan were running in front of us. I could barely see through the white flares of pain in my legs. I was going to fall, I realized, a kind of awful fatalism I remember later. Adrenaline only goes so far. There's a point where it fails. My brain was full of a white, sticky fog. Pain has a way of driving out all other concerns. It's hard for me to describe what happened next. What happened, and what was a product of pain and fear, is hard to tell 10 years later. It looks like this in my memory. We were running, and I could almost see the gap in the ice plants where the pathway started when the foghorn sounded again. It was worse this time. If you've never heard a normal foghorn, they carry like no other sound in the world, like the bellow of some great undersea beast. When this sound went off, I couldn't help but think, somewhere through the haze of pain, that it sounded like a scream. An open mouth. It was followed immediately by another one, and this time my legs collapsed underneath me. I couldn't help it. It was past willpower and adrenaline, and down to the very mechanical limits of my joints, the limits of the pain my brain would tolerate. Sometimes your body just will not let you hurt any longer. As soon as I did, my hand slipped out from Sparrow's. They hadn't been expecting me to fall, and they weren't ready for it. I fell, collapsing down into the sand. The sound came again, and this time it was somehow louder. It filled the entire world. I curled up into a ball, covering my ears, which didn't at all manage to block anything out. I think I screamed. When the sound died down enough for me to open my eyes and look up, I saw a tableau that I can't forget. When I close my eyes, I still can see it. I see it when I sleep. The boat had returned as impossible as that was, like a tiger circling its prey. It was closer than it was before. It seemed larger than it had before. It loomed like a wall of darkness. The water was wrong near it. I don't know why I remember that. I think that sometimes your brain just grabs onto details. The water wasn't lapping against it like it would against a normal ship. It was just coming in gentle waves against the shore, unaffected by the presence of the boat at all. Mollet was the closest to the boat. I didn't see Ryan. I watched her walk towards the boat. I think I tried to call out towards her, but the horn sounded again, and my voice was swallowed by the boom. She walked towards the boat. She didn't look back towards me. I turned that part over in my mind, over and over again. She walked towards the boat and didn't look back. She walked towards the boat, and then, like I said, I was half out of my mind with pain and fear. It's hard to tell what's real and what is. I can only tell you what I saw. She walked forward towards the boat, and it looked like the darkness opened up. I saw something, a rope. I couldn't see curl around her hands. She didn't resist it. She walked forward into the darkness and was gone. Sparrow was closer to me. They were standing, staring at the boat. I watched them sway gently on their feet. They took a step forward, like they were going to follow Mollet into the dark. I made a sound that I'd never made before, some kind of wounded animal cry. I crawled forward. Sparrow, Sparrow. Sparrow turned. There was something strange about their expression, something hollow and empty, like a doll. I reached out a hand towards them. Sparrow, please. To my immense relief, Sparrow came towards me. I couldn't stand on my own. Even trying to lift myself up sent spikes through my flesh. They reached down, helping me to my feet. I buried my face into their neck and breathed for a second. Let's go, please. I hardly knew what I was saying. Sparrow didn't say anything. They just braced their grip on me and started walking towards the ship. What? It came out in a breathless little whisper. My lungs didn't seem like they wanted to work. They took another step forwards. I looked at their face, but their eyes didn't seem to want to focus on mine. Their eyes were dark. They were focused intently on the boat beyond. Sparrow, what? It's okay. I knew as soon as they spoke that something was unimaginably, awfully wrong. Sparrow didn't talk like that. Their voice was supposed to be high, fast, and sharp. They talked faster than they could get the words actually out coherently most of the time. They didn't talk like this, soft, empty, and slow. It's okay. Their skin was so cold against mine. We'll be there in just a moment. I tried to stop, pulling away. No, we need the street, Sparrow, we need. Don't you want to see it? They stopped, but they didn't turn away from the boat. Their grip was still strong on me. This time they looked down, and I had the awful feeling they were still, somehow, looking through me. Their faint smile was like no expression I'd ever seen on their face before. "What?" "It's here for us," Sparrow said, with that same empty, beatific smile. "They watch us, down in the deep below. They watch us with their eyes that aren't eyes down in the deep dark, below the water, and they're tired of waiting. They have space for us down in the dark, below the water, below the ocean's floor. Don't you want to see?" "No." I yanked away, hard enough to slip out of Sparrow's grasp. I hit the sand, and my vision went white with pain. When it had receded enough for me to understand anything again, Sparrow was standing in front of me. I flinched, but they didn't grab for me. They leaned down, pressing a soft kiss against my forehead, before they stood up, smiling that awful smile that wasn't theirs. "Just look," they said, in that same dreamy, dead, dull voice. "Just look. Can't you see?" I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But as they turned away and started to walk towards the ship, swaying slightly as they moved like they were drunk, I glanced down towards the dark wall of the ship as well. The darkness was different somehow now. Instead of just being empty darkness, it seemed to ripple like water. It rippled and distorted. And for some reason, despite an alarm starting to go off in the back of my brain, I couldn't make myself look away. In the darkness, I saw something moving. I wish I could describe to you what I saw. I wish I could make it make sense to someone who hadn't seen it. Any description I come up with seems to pale in comparison. In the darkness, I saw something look back at me. I saw eyes, but they were not eyes. Eyes didn't move like that. They were not eyes, but they could see. They could see inside me, and they promised me things. They promised me darkness, that they had a space for me. There was a place below the waves, below the water, below the bottom of the ocean that was open for me. Humans couldn't live down there, but they promised me that I would live. They promised me that I would live forever. It was my legs that saved me in the end. As Sparrow disappeared, I tried to struggle forward towards the welcoming, waiting dark, and ran up against my legs. I tried to brace some weight on my knee, and the resultant pain was like a white fire. There was no room for darkness or eyes when I hurt like that. I tried again, and that time I think I fully lost consciousness for a moment. My ears were ringing. As soon as I could move or think again, I rolled over and threw up. When I looked up, the boat was gone. And that was that. What else was I supposed to do? I sat on the beach until the sun had started to turn the sky gray and pale and streak the horizon with orange and yellow. And then I got up and limped home. It took hours longer than it was supposed to. Somewhere in the chaos, I'd lost my cane and never did find it again. I made do with a bad one from Walgreens for a while after that. I found out later that we hadn't been the only ones to see the boat. That should have been impossible, of course, but we were beyond that now. I'd didn't understand the world that I lived in anymore. Why shouldn't a ship have visited hundreds of people around the city in a single night? It was no more impossible than anything else I'd seen. There was chaos, I think. I didn't see much of it. I didn't leave my bedroom for a while after that. Instead, I slept through most of the summer, putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I couldn't be bothered by the masses of texts and news articles discussing the mass disappearance. It all seemed so distant, so unreal. I knew what had happened. I knew where everyone was. I knew at the bottom of the sea, beneath the sand and coral, was something hungry and old and waiting. Everything else was just so much theater and pageantry compared to that. I kept seeing the boat whenever I slept. It wasn't all the same dream. I could be in the city, or swimming in the sea, or walking on the beach. Wherever it was, at some point, I would look up at the sky, and there it would be, a dark shadow against the blue sky. I would see it, and then I would feel it again, the touch of strange eyes and the opening of an abyss beneath me. I never told my parents about it. How could I? It wasn't the sort of thing that you could tell your parents. They wouldn't have understood. They wouldn't have understood what I meant when I said that they were still waiting for me. Their eyes were still on me. They still had a space for me beneath the waves. They were still watching me. I suppose it was fair that I watched them back. I turn away from the sea, beginning to walk back towards the pathway down to the parking lot. I don't need to stay, now that I've laid eyes on it. It's not like it's going to move quickly. My phone rings. I fish it out of my pocket with one hand, unlocking it and holding it up to my ear. Hello. Sunshine. The voice is warm and gentle. How are you? I soften despite myself, even though I have to focus on still picking my way down the sand and rocks. Hi, Dad. Yeah, I'm okay. It's just my father and me these days. I'm long grown, but I still live at home, with my legs being what they are and my father's age being what it is. We do a lot better supporting each other. Home aids cost money that neither of us has. We're not as close as we were before everything, but we help each other out. It's a living. When my father speaks again, he sounds concerned. He doesn't like it when I leave without telling him at least that I'm leaving, and when I'll be back, even if he's never even tried to prevent me from going wherever I want. It's not that he's a helicopter parent. He's just scared. I can't really blame him. No one in town likes their people being out of sight these days. Where did you go? Just out to the cliff. I'm heading back now. He tries to not sound disturbed, but he does. And did you see it? I nod before remembering that he can't see me. Yeah, it's miles out, though. Should be months at least before it gets here. We have enough warning to prepare, at least. You know, I don't like that you go out there, he says. This time his voice is gentle, like someone speaking to a frightened animal or a child. I I bristle, despite myself. It's fine, Dad. Nothing's going to happen to me. It can't do anything at that distance. It needs you to be able to see it better for that. It's still a risk, he says. What if it calls you while you're all the way up there? You'd fall all the way into the sea. I don't know how to tell him that he's wrong. He knows I got close to it, closer than most people have. But he doesn't know that I was there. I was there, and I watched my friends be swallowed. People think it just wants to drown those who it takes. There's not many people who have gotten as close to it as I have, and even fewer who have watched the things that I have seen. I wish that all it wanted to do was drown me. A clean death compared to it and what it wants. People have gone out to try and film it, capture it, bomb it. They don't come back. It makes me feel better to monitor it, I say finally. I like knowing where it is. Okay, he says finally. Just come home soon. It's the first night tonight. Okay is all I can say. I'll be back soon. I'm finally back to my car. I set my cane on the empty passenger seat and pull out. Home is a lot more empty than it used to be when I was a kid. Downtown is full of dilapidated buildings and empty windows with signs advertising leases in them. There are walls where you can still see where the letters were pried off from the sign, discolored shapes from the sun. Other signs are bleached with sun and wind till you can hardly see what used to be there. Years on I can't quite remember. Was that an ice cream store or a seafood restaurant? Was that a bookstore or an art studio? There are more homeless folks than there used to be as well. I see people sleeping under overhangs or beneath bridges. There are more encampments than there used to be as well. I pass one as I drive down the back road to my house. This one has been there long enough that they found some fencing from somewhere to encircle their tents with. There are a few gaps in the barrier, presumably for fleeing at speed if they need to. There's already someone outside, a tall woman with skin darker than mine and a bright pink shirt. She catches my eye as I drive by, but doesn't try to interact with me. It still makes a distressed twist go through my stomach. It's not safe to be homeless here these days. I guess I don't know if it ever was. I wonder as I drive if she's going to survive the night. It's night one, which means that everyone's in danger, but especially someone without a house, without doors to lock and hide behind. The city's done their own rituals since about year 2, when it became obvious that this was going to happen and keep happening unless someone did something about it. I don't know all the details behind it. As I've heard it, they got someone from the university, marine biologists, oceanographers, folklorists, even some sailors from the local historical tall ship, and threw everyone in a room together until someone came up with an idea for what to do about the ferryboat. They do the ritual 3 times a year. 3s are important or something. It's a big ceremony for the town. They have hot dog vendors and everything. My father goes sometimes, but I don't. I'm pretty sure it doesn't do anything. Whatever I saw down there in the deep dark down below doesn't care about little rituals with salt and gorse and sea campion. And then there's the rituals that other people do. Don't be surprised that someone came up with it. Wouldn't it have occurred to you, at least? It takes people. It hollows them out of everything but salt water and shadow, and drives them down to the darkness beneath. It wants people, for whatever reason. I have no idea why. I don't know who it was who first thought of it, but it's the kind of thing that people do. It wants people. Let's give them the people we don't want in the first place. I don't know anyone who for sure has taken part in the unofficial side of Night 1. I've never heard of anyone getting convicted for it, either. Once you fall into the cracks, people don't put that much energy into looking for you and bringing you justice, either. Perhaps you think I should help them. Perhaps I should. What would you do? My house is small. We downsized after my mother was lost. I don't think either of us could bear existing in the rooms where she had once walked anymore. It's small and green, and after I park I walk in past my father's tiny vegetable garden. Tiny still green tomatoes curl up steel wires towards the slowly fading sun. My father is sitting in the living room as I enter and lock the door behind me. Father has a charm hanging up by the door. I eye the little bundle of sticks and dried mallow and see aster. I don't say anything. "Hey, sweet pea," he says. His eyes are hollow, but the ordinary hollow of exhaustion. My father hates Night 1. I think I do somewhere, but I haven't felt anything very strongly for a long time. "Hey, Dad." I lean over and press a kiss to the top of his forehead. Staying up. I've got all the windows and doors locked and warded, he says for answer. But you should go double check for me. My legs ache. I want nothing more than to sit. I go check anyway. Like it has been every time for nearly a decade. It's perfect. When I go back, I sit down on the couch next to him. Like I'm a child again, I curl into his side. Dad wraps an arm around me the way he always does. His skin is cooler than it used to be, but it's the ordinary cool of age. I still compare everything to Sparrow. I don't know if I'll ever stop. He's watching the newscast from the ceremony. I lean my head against his shoulder, watching it again. He sighs. I don't know what I think I'm going to see. I shrug. Do you think it does anything? Sure, I say. Maybe. He accepts this answer and ruffles my hair gently before rising. I know he's going to triple check. Some nights, he ends up quadruple and quintuple checking again and again until I make him some tea and make him sit down. He's a lot quieter than he is in my memories. The sea ate his smiles as well. The sea ate the heart out of the city, I think, and sigh. And then pick up the remote and turn off the news. It's not until that night, when I'm laying in bed, that I let myself think what I really think the answer is. I don't think any of the rituals that we do work. Sometimes I meet people who think the violence that is done at the shoreline to those no one in the city cares about is worth it if it keeps the sharks away from their door. I don't know how to tell them that I'm pretty sure it can't do anything. I have charms in my room as well. I've had them for years. It makes Dad feel better to make them. There are bundles and bundles lining the walls and shelves of my room. Bundles of rowan and aster and gorse and sea campion and seaweed. Dad trying different things over the years, trying to find something that works. I have years worth of them, and not one of them has ever stopped me from feeling their eyes that are not eyes on me. I can feel them now as I lay in bed, and there's nothing else to distract me. They are watching me still, behind the walls and sideways of the sea. I feel their gaze like a thin line that stretches from my bedroom all the miles away to where the ferryboat moves slowly, day by day, closer. I wonder if Sparrow and Ryan and Mollet can see me wherever they are. I wish I could believe that the rituals people do work. I wish I couldn't say this about myself, but I know that if it worked, I probably would be okay with giving people to the sea. But I lay there in bed and I feel it. I feel that same sense of pageantry and theater that I did that summer 10 years ago. The sense that everything we've built is nothing but paint and foil and cardboard. It's a play that we do because it makes us feel better, nothing more. Whatever I saw in the darkness that night isn't something that cares about salt water and flowers. If it's giving us space, giving us time to rest and recover, it's not because of anything that we're doing. It's because it wants to. It knows that there's so many of us that cannot leave. It knows that even if 1 year's pickings are slim, that it has time. Whatever has waited there for uncounted eons beneath the waves isn't something that needs to worry about time. I close my eyes, trying to ignore the sense of eyes on me. It can wait, I think to myself. It can wait as long as it takes to catch someone who it wants. I wish I knew what to do. Perhaps somewhere else, I'd be able to figure out how to get my friends back, how to drive the boat away forever, how to stop feeling the aching absence within my chest that I know is the space that they've prepared for me, still waiting for me to fill it. I don't. All I know how to do is lay in my bed and close my eyes, knowing that when I sleep, I will once again see the yawning gaze of the eyes beneath the sea.